You want to see something absolutely absurd, or more accurately said, hear something absurd? Trump, while wrapping up an event in North Carolina, right before hopping into his car and driving away, was asked a question from a reporter about Mark Robinson, the North Carolina gubernatorial candidate who was exposed for being even more crazy than what we knew before, him saying he's a black Nazi and he wants slavery to come back and peeped on female locker rooms. And Trump has really tried to distance himself without denouncing Mark Robinson. And I do think Trump should get asked about this more often because his reaction every time is to quickly scurry away, run away from the question. And that's what happens here.
Is Elon Musk's $1 million offer a day legal, Mr. President?
And from what I could hear there, he says, I'm not familiar with the race. I haven't seen it. This isn't the first time Trump has tried to distance himself from Mark Robinson.
Are you going to pull your endorsement of Mark Robinson?
I don't know the situation.
Do you believe that you...
He knows the situation. The drag on the Republican vote because of the Mark Robinson scandal could cost Trump North Carolina, which could cost him the election. He knows the state of the race. He knows, he has seen what's going on with Mark Robinson. And it's a pitiful excuse for him to try to act like, I just don't know. Because what is he doing? He's not being principled enough to denounce Mark Robinson after these reports, because let's be honest, we didn't know these particular anecdotes, but we knew the character flaws that would lead to such anecdotes coming out. We knew from publicly available information how bad of a candidate and person Mark Robinson is. So Trump was standing by him before. Is this going to be the turning point? He can't decide what he's going to do, so he just does the cowardice option, which is, I don't know. I don't know what race. I don't North Carolina. What's North Carolina? I don't. Never heard of it. And you're probably thinking, well, what are you just saying that because they're Republicans? Why does Trump have to be pressed on? Well, that's because he said this about Mark Robinson before.
He's been an unbelievable Lieutenant Governor, Mark Robinson. This is Martin Luther King on steroids. Okay, now I told that to Mark.
Martin Luther King on steroids. So yeah, he should be asked, do you still stand by him? Because Trump hasn't announced that he's revoking his endorsement. So as of now, he's still officially endorsed Robinson. You know why he would so quickly hop in the car and get me out of here when asked a question like that. Because it gets at what goes so wrong with these extreme MAGA candidates. Again, we didn't know this, but we'd heard his rhetoric about people, his threats against people, Robinson that is, and his policy stances. We should have known something crazy was going to come out. Now, this was not the only absurd thing Trump said in his campaigning over the last couple of days. At a town hall in Pennsylvania, Trump said this.
So we're going to let him frack like a duck. Frack.
Notably, ducks say frack. I guess quack, quack, quack. And that's probably playing into the lies about Vice President Harris planning on banning fracking when she's obviously not going to. This also raised a lot of eyebrows.
Leaders in the world, and I'm not 80, and I'm not that close to 80, but in the Biden case, he's 81 or 82. Leaders.
I don't know if that's the argument. I'm not 80 or close to 80. With all due respect, which I guess not much respect is due to Trump. So with nothing, I pose to you that probably just accepting your age would be a healthier way to go forward as opposed to saying you're not close to 80 when you're 78 and a few months. Then Trump appeared at a barber shop and he was asked about education. Before I play the clip, number one, please do click that subscribe button. We're this close. We're about to cross over 900,000 subscribers, and then that's the home stretch. to 1 million. Thank you to all the people already subscribed. If I were to say to you, Trump is asked about education and he brings up in response, fill in the blank. Say to yourself right now what you think he's going to bring up as it pertains to schools. Because there's one thing. Do you got it? Let's see if you're correct.
We have here in the Bronx. What are we going to do?
They're failing.
What are we going to do to improve that in our school systems?
Well, we're moving.
What are we going to do to improve our school systems? Because the schooling in the Bronx, the questioner says, is failing.
Moving them back from Washington, where you have people that don't care about New York, frankly. You know, in Washington, I don't know if you ever noticed this, you go Department of Education, Department of Education. You got half the buildings are Department of Education. I never saw. You don't need any of them. You know, I want one person and a secretary to just make sure they're teaching English, okay? Give it a little English, okay? I say reading, writing, and arithmetic. No transgender, no operations. You know, they take your kid. There are some places, your boy leaves the school, comes back, a girl, okay? Without parental consent.
Someone says, true. What? Give me an example, sir. Member of the crowd, come forward. Volunteer an example.
There are some places, your boy leaves the school, comes back, a girl, okay? Without parental consent. What is that all about? That's when they talk about a threat to democracy, they're a threat. Could you imagine, without parental consent? At first, when I was told that was actually happening, I said, you know, it's an exaggeration. No, it happens. It happens. There are areas where it happens. We're not going to let it happen.
Trump is described as a threat to democracy because he refused to accept democracy and engage in illegal schemes to do so. Liberals are accused of a threat to democracy because kids are having operations at school to become different genders, which they're not. You can choose which argument is more compelling, which side's making a compelling argument on that particular topic, and which one is not. I genuinely put the ball in their court. Find me an example. Find me one. Actually, I don't even want to give that much oxygen to it because you're not going to find one because no, kids aren't going to school and having operations, as he says. It's absurd. And my question to the members of this barbershop event, does that not feel insulting to you? He's sitting there saying things, thinking you'll buy into them, thinking you won't be able to, in 2 seconds, grab your iPhone and fact check what it is that he's saying. That's insulting to you. Please. Then at one moment, he, let me just refresh this so it plays nice and smoothly, is asked about what will be done to improve our food and people's diets. And Trump, see if his answer is convincing.
Is the plan to do about the food healthcare industry and getting the artificial foods banned in our urban communities that have less access to organic whole foods?
So, Bobby Kennedy, right? Everybody likes Bobby Kennedy. And he's so big into the health food and women, things, everything. He wants to do things in the environment. And he endorsed.
He wants to do things with women that we've never done before. He's so into the women.
The first time a Kennedy's ever endorsed a Republican. Maybe it's going to be the last, but I doubt it. And he's a great guy. He would be so perfect. He doesn't like artificial foods, and he doesn't like pesticides and all the stuff they put on them. And if you listen to him for 10 minutes, I mean, he says other countries that don't do anything are healthier than us, okay? We're not that healthy, to put it mildly. So no artificial foods. We don't want artificial. We have plenty of food. The food isn't our problem. And our farmers are great. And our farmers aren't allowed to do their job. You know, our farmers did great 4 years ago. They were doing just about the best they've ever done. They're not doing well at all now. We're not going to have artificial foods. We don't want artificial foods. We want healthy foods. And a lot of things are going to be going. And I'll tell you, I'm going to have Bobby Kennedy involved in it. He's a great guy. And even the way when I mentioned his name, all you guys, and you're tough cookies. You know, you wouldn't think, sometimes you'd say, maybe you wouldn't like a guy like Bobby. But he's a person that talks more about food and health than anything else. So I think that's cool. So we'll get it taken care of.
That's
You'll
gonna
be healthier in 4 years from now than you are now, and you look very healthy to me, by the way.
It is wild that people let him get away with giving answers like the one that you just heard, or when he gets asked about cutting government waste, he'll just go, Elon Musk. Elon Musk. The question will be, how specifically, give me an example, are you going to offset the massive tax cuts you're proposing and not allow them to lead to a massive jacking up of our deficit? And Trump will go, waste cutting. Give me an example of how that will be done and what you'll be cutting. And Trump goes, Elon Musk. Elon has these rockets and they come down, pew, and they into a circle. And actually, funny thing, circles remind me of Biden circles. Biden circles. But they say he won the election by 81. He got 81 million votes, but he couldn't even fill up his circles. And the rockets go right down into the little circles that they go into. And so Musk will take care of that. Let me actually, if you haven't seen this clip, you think I'm having some sort of psychotic break. Let me Trump circles. Let's see if Trump circles pulls up the moment that I'm thinking of. Oh no, it's him walking around in circles, him confused. This is it.
It's a very big plant. Many countries, they do that, and then all of a sudden you hear that they're leaving Milwaukee or they're leaving wherever they may be located. It's very sad to see it. And it's so simple. I mean, this isn't like Elon with his rocket ships that land within 12 inches on the moon where they wanted to land. Or he gets the engines back. That was the first I said, who the hell did that? I saw engines about 3-4 years ago. These things were coming, cylinders, no wings, no nothing. And they're coming down very slowly, landing on a raft in the middle of the ocean someplace with a circle. Boom. Reminded me of the Biden circles that he used to have, right? He'd have 8 circles and he couldn't fill them up. But then I heard he beat us with the popular vote. I don't know. Couldn't fill up the 8 circles. I always loved those circles. They were so beautiful. They were so beautiful to look at. In fact, the person that did them, that was the best thing about his...
Okay. I don't know, MAGA. If that's really convincing to you, then I don't know what to tell you. I don't know if I can argue against that. Okay, I think he wins that argument about the circles. And friend of the show, Aaron Rupar, has been predicting that as Trump continues to try to win over voters by saying, we're going to have no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, no tax on something else. And he keeps expanding it. I think he said maybe no taxes for firefighters. And again, doesn't explain how he would offset these, as much as I want people to, hardworking Americans, to be able to keep more of their, money. He doesn't ever comprehensively explain how this won't go in, a roundabout way actually hurt people. And so here, he seems to be open to the idea of just eliminating income taxes altogether, which is something Aaron Rupar thinks he's eventually going to propose.
With all this extra revenue we're going to be bringing into the country. So do you believe at some point in time we could find a way, once the country's back on its feet and getting enough revenue and paid off our debt, do you think it's possible to find a way to eliminate federal taxes?
There is a way.
And how do you feel about it?
In the old days, when we were a smart country, in the 1890s and all, this is when the country was relatively the richest it ever was. It had all tariffs. It didn't have an income tax.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Now we have income taxes, and we have people that are dying. They're paying tax, and they don't have the money to pay the tax. No, in the old days, 1890, 1880, we had so much money, they had to set up committees, blue ribbon committees, how to spend our wealth. We had no idea how to spend it with so much money. Then we went to the income tax system, and the rest is sort of history. But no, there is a way. I mean, if what I'm planning comes out, it's a great question, by the way.
Everyone could attain the American dream.
Sophisticated cat,
Everyone could attain the American dream if it wasn't for the high cost, the burden of high taxes, and we're taxed at every step of the way.
Yeah.
When we make it, when we spend
regulations. And regulations.
Absolutely.
So I cut more regulations in 4 years than any other president by 4 times. Yeah, let's go. You would ask one question.
He's so Donald Trump is so confused about so much, it's painful to listen to. And unfortunately, the question that was posed seemed to play into Trump's, I shouldn't even say framing, just lie about how tariffs work and how Trump keeps insisting to his followers, we will just be getting paid by foreign governments for them to use our market and to sell to our consumers. And that's the only thing a tariff is going to do, without acknowledging the reason. There's a reason that so many things are developed in other countries. And it's because US companies have found cheaper options. And whenever immoral practices are enabled to get those cheap costs, we should prevent that. A problem that has not been addressed enough. But the reason this happens is because of the US companies' ambition to lower their costs and do so by, or, make more profit. But what Trump never answers for is, if you demand that every country only make stuff here and that tariffs on those who do have things manufactured outside the United States are super severe, how will that not impact prices? Because sometimes, like the tariffs that were implemented for EVs under Biden and Harris, and some of the tariffs that Biden kept that Trump had implemented related to Chinese products, there's totally strategic uses of tariffs and reasons that you come out ahead when you do it ultimately. But there's also an economic impact of saying we might have to throw a 2,000% tariff on stuff, as Trump has said, because it's a tax on U.S. companies and that gets trickled down to the consumers. But he never explains that, so then it just seems like someone who heard a word one time that sounded like it was an economic proposal and just keeps repeating it and sort of invented his own definition. And that's not what presidential candidates should do. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Support the show by getting the join button. Not getting it, getting the bonus show by clicking the join button below.